The battle had ended hours ago, but the sky above the alien moon was still filled with smoke and falling debris. Saul, a human soldier, slowly opened his eyes as his ship's emergency lights flickered. The crash had thrown him across the cabin and his right arm ached badly. He could hear the soft hum of damaged engines and the hiss of escaping air. His heart was still racing from the memory of the explosion that had brought his squadron down. He pulled himself up and checked the scanner on his wrist. It showed no human signals nearby. His entire team had either escaped orbit or gone down somewhere far away. Saul was alone on an unknown moon deep inside Zenari territory, a place humans were warned never to go. He grabbed his survival pack, his helmet, and stepped out through the broken hatch. The air outside was strange but breathable. The moon was covered in green forests and silver lakes. Giant trees with crystal blue leaves shone faintly under the twin suns above. Insects hummed softly around him. For a moment, Saul forgot he was in enemy space. It looked peaceful, almost beautiful, but peace could not hide danger. Somewhere beyond those trees, the Zenari were searching for survivors of the crash. Saul started walking toward the hills, keeping low between the tall plants. His training guided him, but he still felt uneasy. Every shadow could hide an enemy. Every sound made him grip his weapon tighter. By evening, he found a small cave beside a waterfall and decided to rest there for the night. He set up a small fire and cleaned his wounds. The ache in his arm grew worse, but he refused to stop. As the sun set, the forest came alive with strange glowing insects and soft singing from unseen creatures. Saul leaned against the stone wall of the cave, tired but alert. His thoughts drifted to his unit. He wondered if they thought he was dead. He wondered if anyone would come for him. The sound of rushing water filled his ears, calming him a little. He knew he had to survive, not only for himself but for the humans who depended on his report. Sometime during the night, he heard movement outside. A shape crossed near the waterfall. Saul froze and quietly grabbed his weapon. The sound came closer, soft but steady like footsteps. When he peeked out, he saw a figure wearing light armor that shimmered like glass. The person was tall, slender, and clearly not human. It was a Zenari, one of the alien species humanity had fought for decades. The alien seemed to be scanning the area with a small device. Saul stayed hidden, hoping the stranger would pass. But before he could move, a growl echoed through the forest. A large beast with 4 legs and a mouthful of sharp teeth leaped from the bushes, charging straight at the alien. The creature's roar was loud enough to shake the leaves. Without thinking, Saul raised his weapon and fired. The blast hit the creature's side, sending it crashing into the water. The alien turned sharply, pointing a weapon back toward the cave. For a long moment, neither moved. Saul slowly stepped out, hands raised, showing he meant no harm. The alien lowered the weapon slightly, surprised to see a human soldier alive. The face behind the glass mask was that of a woman with pale skin and silver eyes that reflected the moonlight. "You saved me," she said softly, her voice calm but curious. "You should not be here, human." "I could say the same to you," Saul replied, still holding his weapon carefully. "Your kind started this war." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "War is never started by one side alone." They both stood in silence for a moment. Then the alien woman looked toward the dead creature and back at Saul. "You are wounded. You cannot survive here alone." "I have survived worse," Saul said, though he could feel pain in every muscle. She studied him for a moment, then turned away. "Follow me," she said. "The patrols will be here soon and they will not care that you saved my life." Saul hesitated. Trusting an alien, especially a Zenari, was against every rule he knew. But he had no other choice. He followed her through the forest as the night deepened. Her movements were graceful, almost silent, and she seemed to know every sound and smell around them. After some time, they reached a hidden cave covered by hanging vines. Inside, there were small glowing stones that lit up the walls. The woman placed her hand on one of them and it glowed brighter. "You can rest here," she said. Saul sat down and looked around. The place was warm and dry. He could not understand why this alien was helping him. "Who are you?" he finally asked. "My name is Mira," she replied. "I am traveling alone." She hesitated before saying the last words, as if hiding something. "Traveling alone in a war zone?" Saul said, raising an eyebrow. "You must be brave." "Brave or foolish," she said with a small smile. "Maybe both." For the first time since the crash, Saul felt something other than fear. He felt curiosity. Mira was unlike any alien he had seen before. She was calm, thoughtful, and carried herself with quiet strength. He noticed symbols on her armor, different from those of regular soldiers. He guessed she was someone important but decided not to ask. The two of them shared food from Sewell's pack. Mira studied the human rations with interest and laughed softly when she tasted one. "It tastes like dust," she said. "Better than starving," Sewell replied with a grin. That small laugh broke the tension between them. They began to talk about their worlds. Mira told him about the Zinari homeworld, filled with tall crystal cities and floating gardens. Sol told her about Earth, about the oceans and mountains, and how people still dreamed of peace even after centuries of war. As the hours passed, they began to understand each other more. Mira was surprised to learn that humans valued family and kindness, things her own empire often ignored. Sol realized that the Zinari were not just cold invaders, but a people struggling with their own fears and pride. When the suns rose again, Mira checked outside and saw patrol ships in the sky. "We must move," she said. "If they find you, they will take you prisoner, or worse." Sewell looked at her carefully. "Why are you helping me?" Mira looked away for a moment. "Because you saved me when you could have run," she said. "That means something." They left the cave and began traveling deeper into the forest, avoiding patrols and scanners. Mira used her knowledge of the land to hide their tracks. Sol followed her, impressed by how fearless she seemed. Sometimes she would pause and listen to the wind as if it spoke to her. By afternoon, they reached the ruins of an old outpost covered in vines. Mira said it had been abandoned long ago during the First Wars. "We can stay here," she said. "It is safe for now." Inside, they found old machinery and dusty rooms. Sol cleaned a space to rest while Mira fixed a small energy lamp. The light filled the room with a soft glow. For the first time, Sewell felt something like safety. As night came, they sat near the broken window and watched the stars. Sol pointed at one of the brighter ones. "That is where I come from," he said. "Earth." Mira looked at it quietly. "It looks small from here," she said. "But it must hold so much life." "It does," Sol said. "And so does yours." Mira turned to him, her silver eyes reflecting the starlight. "Maybe our people are not so different after all." Sol nodded. "Maybe they just forgot how to listen." The wind moved softly through the broken walls. For a moment, it felt like the war was far away. Two enemies, alone on a strange moon, sitting side by side under the stars. Neither knew what the next day would bring, but both felt that something had changed between them. Sol did not know yet that the choice he made to save her would change both their lives forever. And Mira, the alien woman he thought was just a traveler, was hiding a truth that would soon shake two empires. The old outpost stood silent among the tall trees. It had once been a place for Zinari scouts long ago, but now nature had taken it back. Green vines covered the walls and soft moss grew over the floor. Sol and Mira had made it their home since the crash. It was not much, but it kept them safe from patrols and storms. Every morning, Sol went outside to gather fruit and water from a nearby stream. Mira stayed inside, studying the old control panels and repairing broken systems with her small tools. Even though the machines were old, she managed to bring power back to a few of them. A soft light now filled one of the rooms, and they used it as a place to eat and talk. Days passed quietly, but neither forgot that the war was still raging beyond the skies. Sol often looked up, wondering if human ships were searching for him. Mira sometimes stood near the window, gazing at the twin suns, her thoughts deep and far away. They spoke little at first, only sharing what was needed to survive. But over time, that changed. One evening, after Sol returned from hunting small forest animals, he found Mira sitting near the light with her armor off. She looked tired, her silver eyes duller than usual. "You are overworking yourself again," he said with a faint smile. She looked up. "If I can fix the transmitter, we may send a signal." "It could call for help." "Help from who?" Sol asked. "Your people would capture me if they find out I am human." Mira looked down at her hands. "Perhaps. But I cannot let you die here either." Her words made Sol pause. There was concern in her voice, real concern. Not something an enemy would normally show. He sat beside her and looked at the broken transmitter. "Let me help," he said. Mira shook her head. "Your human machines are different. You will not understand our systems." Sol smiled a little. "Try me." Together they worked on the device for hours. Mira explained the design, and Sol suggested ways to stabilize the damaged power source. To her surprise, some of his ideas actually worked. When the transmitter gave off a soft beep, Mira turned to him with wide eyes. "You did it," she said softly. "We did it," Sul corrected. For the first time since they met, Mira smiled fully. It was a gentle smile, not forced or cautious. Sul found himself staring for a moment, realizing how different she looked when she was not acting like a queen or a soldier. But he quickly turned his eyes away, pretending to check the device. That night they sat outside under the stars. Mira told him stories about her world, about the floating gardens and crystal towers. Saul listened closely. He had never thought of the Zinari as people with art or families. To him, they were only enemies, but Mira's words changed that picture. "Our empire was not always about war," she said quietly. "Once we built things, not destroyed them. But fear made us fight. Fear of losing what we have. Fear of what we do not understand." Saul nodded slowly. "Humans are no different. We fight for survival too, but sometimes we forget why we started fighting at all." They sat in silence for a long time. The forest around them hummed softly and the stars above seemed endless. Saul felt something inside him shift, a quiet respect growing for the woman beside him. She was supposed to be his enemy, but she had saved his life more than once now. The next morning, Sul went to gather food again. When he returned, he found Mira outside, training with her energy blade. Her movements were smooth and fast, her focus sharp. Sul watched quietly for a while before stepping forward. "You train every day," he said. "Even here?" "It helps me think," she replied, deactivating the blade. "And it helps me remember who I am." Sul smiled faintly. "Who are you, Mira? You said you were traveling alone, but you speak like a leader." She looked at him for a moment, then said softly, "Maybe I was one once." Sul could tell there was more behind those words, but he did not press. He respected her silence. Still, her mystery made her even more interesting to him. Later that day, the sky darkened. A storm rolled in, and they both worked quickly to secure the outpost. The wind howled outside, and the trees bent under the heavy rain. Inside, they sat near the old fire lamp, wrapped in blankets. "It reminds me of the monsoons on Earth," Sul said. "We used to watch the rain from our windows. My mother said the sound of rain makes the world feel clean again." Mira listened carefully. "Your mother sounds wise." "She was," Sul said softly. "She always believed that even in war, kindness should not die." Mira looked into the light. "I wish more leaders thought like her." The sound of the rain filled the silence between them. Mira leaned back, her silver hair catching the light. "You know, when I first saw you, I thought you were foolish," she said. "A human alone on my moon, wounded and still trying to fight. And now?" Saul asked. She looked at him with a faint smile. "Now I think you are brave. Maybe even stubborn." Sul laughed lightly. "Humans are good at being stubborn." The laughter broke the heaviness of the night. It was a rare moment of peace. Outside the storm kept raging, but inside they felt safe. The air was warm and their voices filled the room instead of fear. Days turned into weeks. They repaired more systems, shared stories, and learned about each other's customs. Mira taught Sol how to read simple Zinari words, and Sol showed her how humans built fire from simple tools. Slowly, their bond grew. One day, Sol found an injured bird-like creature near the stream. He brought it back, and Mira helped him heal it with her medical kit. When the creature flew again, she smiled softly. "You humans care for even the weakest things," she said. "Someone has to," Sol replied. "Every life matters," Mira nodded. "That is what I used to believe too." That night, as they ate together, Sul asked, "Why did you leave your people? You said you were traveling alone. But I think you were running from something." Mira looked into the small fire. "I was not running," she said slowly. "I was searching. My people have lost their way. I wanted to see what the war has done to our worlds, to our hearts. But I never thought I would meet a human like you." Sul could see the sadness in her eyes. He wanted to say something comforting, but stopped himself. He simply said, "Maybe meeting me was not an accident." Mira turned to him, and for a brief moment their eyes met. There was no hate or fear, only quiet understanding. The war outside no longer mattered in that small room. The next morning, Mira woke early and stepped outside. The forest was calm after the storm. Sunlight passed through the wet leaves, making everything shine. Sol soon joined her, carrying 2 metal cups of warm tea. "I still cannot believe we are drinking together instead of fighting," he said with a smile. "Perhaps the universe wanted to show us something," Mira said, "that even enemies can share peace when they stop listening to their fears." Sul nodded slowly. If only our leaders could see that. As the days went on, they grew closer. They laughed more, trusted more, and slowly forgot the lines that once divided them. Mira began to care for Sol's safety more than she cared for her own. Sol, in return, started to see her not as a soldier or alien, but as a person, one who carried heavy burdens yet still showed kindness. One evening, while checking the transmitter, Mira frowned. The signal they sent had been received by someone. Sol looked at her nervously. "Is that good or bad?" "I do not know," she said softly. "It could be my people, or it could be yours." They both understood what that meant. Their quiet life in hiding might soon end. That night, neither could sleep. Sol looked out at the forest while Mira sat quietly beside him. "Whatever happens next," he said, "I am glad I met you." Mira turned to him and said gently, "And I am glad you saved me." For a moment, there was silence. The night air was cool, the stars bright above them. Two enemies, once separated by hate, now shared trust and something even stronger. They did not name it, but both felt it deeply. Mira closed her eyes, her thoughts full of confusion and hope. She had never felt this way before. Sol was human, yet he had touched her heart in a way no one from her own kind ever had. And Sol, watching her in the faint light, knew that his life had changed forever. He did not know what tomorrow would bring, but he was ready to face it. With her. Far above the forest, silent ships moved across the stars. The signal had been received, and the peace they found together was about to be tested. Morning light touched the broken walls of the old outpost. Sol woke first and checked the sky through a gap in the roof. The air was clear and no ships were visible. Yet he could not stop thinking about the signal they sent. Someone out there had heard it. He did not know if it meant rescue or danger. Mira was sitting near the small fire lamp, quiet and thoughtful. Her eyes were distant, lost in worry. Sol walked closer and asked gently, "You did not sleep?" She shook her head. "No, I'm thinking about what happens next. If my people receive the signal, they will come here soon." "And if it is humans?" Sol asked. Mira looked up at him. "Then they will take you home, and I will become their prisoner." Sol frowned. "You saved my life more than once. I would not let that happen." Mira smiled sadly. "You may not have a choice, Sol. Your world and mine do not see friendship between us as possible." He sat beside her, feeling the same helplessness. They had survived the wild moon, built trust and learned from each other. Yet the worlds above still belonged to war and fear. The day passed quietly. Mira worked on her scanner and Sol repaired the broken doorway. When night came, the two shared a small meal and tried to rest. But deep in the forest far away, bright lights began to move through the trees. By dawn, the sounds of engines filled the air. Mira's face grew pale. "They are here," she said softly. Zenari patrols appeared first. Sleek silver ships landed in the open field beyond the forest. Dozens of armored guards stepped out. Sol and Mira stood near the window watching. Mira turned to him and whispered, "You must hide. If they see you, they will kill you." "I am not running," Sol said firmly. "This is not bravery, Sol, it is madness." "Please listen to me," Mira said, her voice tense. Sol looked at her carefully. "You are their queen, aren't you?" Mira froze. For a moment she said nothing. Then she sighed and removed the small crest hidden beneath her armor. It was a royal mark, carved from a rare crystal that shone faintly. "Yes," she said quietly. "I am Queen Mira of the Zenari Empire." Sol stared at her in shock. "You were hiding your identity all this time." "I had to," she said. "If you knew, you might not have trusted me. I wanted to see the truth of this war for myself, not from a throne, but with my own eyes." Sol took a step back, struggling to believe it. "You are the reason my people fought. The reason we lost so many lives," Mira's voice softened. "And I am also the one who lost many of my own. This war has taken everything from both sides." Before Sol could answer, a voice called from outside. "Your Majesty, we found the crash site. Are you safe?" Mira turned toward the window. "Stay hidden," she whispered. Then she stepped out, her posture straight and regal. The guards knelt as she appeared, shocked to see her alive. "We thought you were lost," one of them said. "I survived thanks to my own strength," Mira said firmly. She did not mention Sol. "Take me to the palace. There are matters to discuss." The guards obeyed, but one of them noticed footprints inside the outpost. "Your Majesty, there is another. A human." Mira's voice grew sharp. "You will not touch him. He is under my protection. The soldiers hesitated. No one questioned the queen. They brought a transport craft and escorted her aboard. Sol watched from the shadows, unsure what to do. Before leaving, Mira turned toward the forest and spoke quietly as if to the wind. "Stay alive, Sul. Do not let them find you." The ship lifted off, leaving Sul alone once again. For 2 days he stayed hidden, unsure of what had become of her. The forest felt empty without her voice. He thought of her laughter, her calmness, and the way she had spoken of peace. He wanted to believe she was safe, but part of him feared he would never see her again. Far away on the shining world of the Zenari Empire, Mira returned to her palace. The grand halls were filled with light and guards. The council awaited her, surprised but relieved. Yet when she entered, their relief turned to whispers. She had been gone for many cycles, and rumors had spread that she might have betrayed them. "Your Majesty," said Lord Terran, the council leader, "we rejoice at your return. But where were you? The humans grow stronger. We feared you were captured." "I was not captured," Mira said. "I was searching for truth." "Truth?" another counselor asked. "What truth can be found among humans?" Mira raised her hand. "Enough! You speak of humans as if they are monsters, but they are not. I have seen their courage, their kindness, their pain. We are not so different." Her words filled the room with shock. Murmurs spread like fire. "You speak like one of them," someone said. Mira's calm voice cut through the noise. "I speak as your queen. I have seen what endless war does to us. It destroys everything we love." The council grew restless. They demanded she rest and speak later, but Mira had more to say. Yet before she could continue, a wave of dizziness hit her. Her vision blurred and she felt weak. Servants rushed forward, guiding her to her chambers. Days passed as Mira rested, but strange symptoms continued. Her healers were called, and after long tests, one of them entered her room with wide eyes. "Your Majesty," the healer said softly, "you are expecting a child." Mira froze, her heart pounding. "That is not possible," she whispered. The healer bowed. "It is, but the child's energy is unlike ours. It carries both Zenari and something else." Mira dismissed the healer quickly. When she was alone, she placed her hand over her heart. She understood now. The child was Sol's. Somehow, through their bond, life had formed where none should have been possible. Her thoughts raced. The Zenari would never accept such a thing. A child of mixed blood would be seen as unnatural. Yet Mira did not feel fear for herself, only for the life growing inside her. That night she stood by the great window, looking out at the city lights. The stars reminded her of Sol, of the forest, of the peace they shared. She whispered softly, "You will not be forgotten, Sol." Weeks passed. Mira returned to her duties but kept her secret hidden. Her body began to change and she avoided long meetings, claiming she was unwell. Only her closest attendant, a kind woman named Reen, knew the truth. "You cannot hide this forever," Reen said one evening. "The council will see." "I know," Mira said, "but I need time. When they learn, they must also see why this matters." "What will you tell them?" Reen asked. "The truth," Mira said. "That this child is proof that peace between humans and Zenari is possible." Reen looked worried. "They may call it treason." "Then let them," Mira said softly. "If peace is treason, then perhaps we need new laws." Far from the palace, Sul was making his own plans. He had built a small signal beacon and tried to contact the human fleet, but no one answered. He began to believe he had been forgotten. Still, he refused to leave the moon. Something deep inside him told him he had to wait. One evening, while gathering wood, he saw a small drone flying low. It carried the Zenari royal mark. Attached to it was a small crystal chip with a message. When he activated it, Mira's voice filled the air. "Sol," her voice said softly, "I am safe, but things have changed. I cannot see you now. They would not understand. But know that you are not forgotten. Something inside me reminds me of our time together every day. Do not return to the skies yet. The war may soon change." Sol held the crystal tightly. He could not fully understand what she meant, but her voice gave him strength. He looked up at the stars and whispered, "I will wait." Months passed. On the Zenari world, Mira's secret became harder to hide. Her body revealed the truth, and the council began to ask questions. One night they demanded an explanation. She stood before them, tall and calm. "I am carrying a child," she said. "A child that carries both Zenari and human life." The chamber fell silent. Shock and disbelief filled every face. "This is impossible," one said. It is an abomination, said another. Mira raised her voice. No, it is hope. This child proves that life can exist between us, that we can be more than enemies. The council erupted in argument. Some called for her removal, others for exile, but many were too stunned to act. Mira stood proudly, her eyes steady. I will not hide or be ashamed, she said. The future will judge us, not our fear. Far away, Sul felt a strange calm that night. He did not know what was happening across the stars, but he looked toward the sky and felt that something greater had begun. He did not know that his name, whispered in secret by a queen, would soon change the fate of two worlds. Sol stood near the tall crystal window of the alien palace, looking out over the silver city. The towers of the Zinari Empire shimmered under the pale light of two moons. It was beautiful but tense. He could feel the unrest in the air. The city was preparing for war again. The humans had gathered fleets near the edge of Zinari space, and Mira's council demanded that she strike first. For weeks, Sul had lived under close watch. The guards no longer saw him as a guest, but not as a full prisoner either. Mira had ordered them to treat him with respect, but she was also keeping him hidden. The truth about her condition was not yet public. Sol did not know every detail, but he had seen the worry in her eyes and the way she held her hand to her stomach when she thought no one was watching. One morning, Mira came to see him in the quiet garden behind the palace. The sky above was soft blue and the air smelled of glowing flowers. Sol turned when he heard her steps. She looked tired but strong. Mira, Sol said softly, I can see the tension in this city. The people look afraid. What's happening? The council wants war, she answered. They believe the humans will attack soon. They think peace is impossible. And what do you believe? He asked. She took a slow breath. I believe in what we saw together on that moon. I believe there can be understanding. But they will not listen to words alone. They need proof that peace can exist, Sol frowned. And what proof would change their hearts? Mira hesitated for a long time. Then she said quietly, the child. Sol froze. The child? She nodded. The child I carry is not just mine, it is ours. You and I created something that should not be possible. It means our species can connect more deeply than anyone imagined. But if they learn now, they might see it as a threat. I must choose the right moment to reveal it. Sol was silent for a moment, then said, If that child means peace, then I will stand by you, Mira. I don't care what it takes. She gave him a gentle look. I know you will, Sol, but I also know it will not be easy. You are human, and my people still see you as an enemy. To them, this truth may cause fear before it brings hope. Over the next few days, the tension in the Empire grew worse. Ships launched into orbit. Soldiers trained in the courtyards, and the sky glowed with defense shields. Sol felt helpless as he watched the preparations. He thought of his fellow humans out there, preparing for another battle they did not need. One night, the council held a secret meeting in the Grand Hall. Mira was there with her advisors. Sol watched from a balcony as they argued. The humans cannot be trusted, said Lord Cairn, the head of the military. They will strike the moment we show weakness. We must not wait, another shouted. Our queen's kindness will destroy us. Mira rose slowly from her throne. Her voice was calm but full of strength. Enough, you speak of war as if it were a game. You speak of strength as if it were measured in deaths. I have seen the humans. I have seen their courage, their pain, and their hope. They are not monsters. They are like us, Lord Cairn glared at her. You have been influenced, my queen. That human has poisoned your mind. Mira's eyes flashed. No, he opened it. The hall went silent. Her words echoed through the chamber. She took a deep breath and continued. I will no longer hide what I have learned. I carry proof that peace is possible. Within me grows a life born from both human and Zinari, a child that shows our worlds can unite. Gasps filled the room. Some of the council members rose to their feet in shock, others shouted in disbelief. Lord Cairn's face turned pale. This is blasphemy, he shouted. Such a union cannot exist. It must not. But Mira raised her hand, silencing them. It exists and it lives. I will not deny it. You can call it unnatural or you can call it a miracle. I choose to see it as hope. That night the news spread through the city. The people of Zinari were divided. Some were angry, calling for the queen's removal. Others whispered that it was destiny. Sol saw fear in many eyes but also curiosity. For the first time, they looked at him not as an enemy but as something they could understand. Mira knew the truth would reach the humans soon. She decided to face it herself. She asked Sewell to stand with her in front of both armies. Days later, a meeting was arranged on the neutral moon where the first battle had begun. Huge ships floated in orbit while troops stood ready on both sides. In the center of the field, a white platform was set for the peace meeting. Mira walked beside Sewell, dressed in her royal armor of silver and green. Sol wore his simple human uniform. They looked like symbols of two worlds that had been enemies for too long. The human general, Admiral Ross, looked at Sewell in surprise when he stepped forward. "We thought you were lost," he said. "I was," Sewell replied, "but I found something more important than survival." Mira spoke next, her voice clear and strong. "My people and yours have fought for generations. We call each other enemies because we never truly tried to understand. But now we have proof that peace is not only possible, it is real." The crowd was silent. Mira placed her hand gently on her stomach. "I carry within me a child born of human and Zinari. This life is a symbol of what can be created instead of destroyed." The generals and soldiers on both sides stared in disbelief. Some whispered, some shouted. But then Sol stepped forward. "You can keep fighting," he said loudly, "or you can believe that this new life means something. I saw how kindness changed fear. I saw how two enemies learned to trust. If we can do it, so can our worlds." Mira looked at him proudly. "War is easy. Understanding takes courage. We must choose courage." There was a long silence. Finally, Admiral Ross lowered his weapon. "Perhaps it is time we listen," he said. The Zinari commander slowly followed his example. One by one, the soldiers began to relax their weapons. No one fired. No one shouted. For the first time in years, the two sides stood together without hate. That night, peace talks began. The meeting lasted for hours. There were still disagreements, still suspicion, but a small light of hope had started. Sol sat beside Mira as she spoke with human and Zinari leaders. They did not agree on everything, but they listened, and that was enough to start something new. Later, when the talks ended, Mira and Sol stood outside under the stars. The two moons shone brightly and the sky seemed calm. Mira turned to him. "I do not know what will happen next," she said softly. Sol smiled. "Neither do I. But for the first time, I believe it might be something good." Mira placed her hand over her heart. "Then let us see what kind of world our child will be born into." Sol nodded. "A world worth protecting, not fighting over." They stood there together, human and alien, under the vast stars that had once divided them but now began to unite them. The future was uncertain, but the message was clear. The universe had changed and hope had finally taken its first breath. The first light of the twin suns stretched over the Zinari Empire, painting the crystal towers with gold and silver. Birds with shining feathers flew across the sky, singing songs that had not been heard in the palace for years. Sol stood on the balcony looking at the city. The air was filled with a calm he had not felt before. The tension that had once gripped the empire was slowly easing, replaced by hope. Mira joined him quietly. She moved with her usual grace, though the curve of her stomach was now visible. The child inside her had grown strong, moving often, reminding them both of the new life that would change everything. Mira placed her hand gently on her stomach and looked at Sol. "It feels different now," she said softly. "The city feels alive in a new way. The people are beginning to believe that peace is possible." Sol nodded, his hand brushing hers. "It is because of you, and because of what we created together. That child will be proof that two worlds can unite." Mira smiled faintly. "I hope they see it that way. Not as a threat, but as hope." Weeks passed and the empire slowly adjusted. The council, once so strict and fearful, began to accept the truth. Mira continued to speak about unity, about understanding, and about the importance of trust. Many were inspired by her words, though some remained doubtful. Still, for the first time, arguments were no longer settled by force. Soldiers lowered their weapons. Human and Zinari engineers began to collaborate, sharing technology and knowledge. Sol spent most of his days learning about the Zinari culture. Mira taught him their history, their language, and even the art of building small energy devices. Sol enjoyed every moment, but he also trained daily. Even in peace, a soldier cannot completely stop learning. One afternoon, Mira called Sol to the palace garden. Flowers with soft silver petals glowed gently in the sunlight. The twin suns made the leaves shine like jewels. Mira gestured to a small pond in the center. "This is where I want the child to see the first lessons of life," she said. Peace, nature, and balance. They must grow understanding of both our worlds. Sol looked at the pond and smiled. You think far ahead? Mira laughed softly. A queen must. And now so must a mother. The months passed quickly. Mira's condition became obvious, but she faced it with quiet strength. Sol remained beside her through everything, helping her walk when the child grew heavy and keeping her spirits high with stories of Earth. He told her about oceans, mountains, and forests, and she would imagine them as if she were there. Then came the day of the birth. The palace was quiet except for Sol and a small group of trusted healers. Mira lay on a soft bed of glowing moss, her breathing steady but deep. Sol held her hand, refusing to leave her side. The child was born under the light of the twin suns, small and delicate, yet full of life. Its skin carried a soft silver shimmer, and its eyes reflected both human brown and Zinari silver. The moment the baby cried, a hush fell over the room. Life had won over fear. Mira looked at the child and whispered, "Welcome to our worlds, little one." Sol's eyes filled with wonder. "It is perfect," he said softly. "A true symbol of peace." The baby's cry echoed through the palace halls, reaching the soldiers and citizens outside. Many came to see, whispering in awe and disbelief. News spread quickly. The child of a human and the Zinari queen was alive. Some people feared change, but most felt hope for the first time in generations. Mira held the child close. "This is the future," she said. "Not the war we were taught to fight, but a world we can build together." Sol knelt beside them, looking at both mother and child. "We have a lot to teach them," he said, "but I believe they will grow strong, smart, and kind." In the following days, the palace became a place of learning and laughter. Humans and Zinari worked side by side, sharing stories, teaching each other about their worlds, and helping with the child. Mira watched as her people slowly began to see that difference was not dangerous, but beautiful. One evening, Mira and Sol stood on the balcony again. The city below was calm, bathed in the soft light of the setting suns. Children played in the gardens. Soldiers laughed with engineers. A quiet joy had replaced fear. "I never thought it could feel like this," Sol said. "A world without constant worry of attack." Mira smiled and laid her hand over his. "It is because of what we have done. You, me, and our child have changed everything. We showed both sides that life is more important than fear." Sol looked down at the child in the small crib beside the balcony. The baby's tiny hand reached out instinctively. "We have a long journey ahead," he said. "But I think we are ready." Mira nodded. "Yes, together we are ready." Months passed and the child grew strong. It learned quickly, picking up words from both humans and Zinari. The baby's laughter became a symbol in the city, a reminder that peace was not just a word but a living, breathing reality. Sol and Mira often walked together with the child in the gardens, teaching it about both worlds. Sol showed how to fish in the ponds, how to climb small trees, and how to notice the stars at night. Mira taught about the history of the Zinari, their gardens and their art. The child listened, watched and learned, showing curiosity that warmed the hearts of all who saw it. One day, a council meeting was held to discuss the Empire's future. Mira brought the child with her. When she entered, all eyes were on the small being. The council could not ignore it. Mira spoke clearly. "This child is not a mistake," she said. "It is a symbol of what can be achieved when we set aside fear. We have fought too long. Our people must learn to understand, to share, and to grow together. The humans are not our enemies. They are our partners." The council was silent, but slowly some members nodded. They began to discuss new laws that would allow cooperation, trade, and even education between humans and Zinari. Mira smiled. The first steps of a new world were happening. Sol watched her, proud and amazed. "You have done more than anyone could imagine," he said softly. Mira looked at him with gentle eyes. "No, Sol, we did it together, and our child reminds us every day that life is stronger than fear." As the sun set, they walked back to the palace with the child in Sol's arms. The stars above twinkled, reflecting off the crystal towers. Sol felt a quiet joy he had never known. He had survived a war, built a bond with an alien queen, and helped create a new life. He realized that humanity's courage and kindness had changed the galaxy. Mira stopped and looked at the horizon. "This is only the beginning," she said. "The journey ahead is long, but now we know it is possible." Sol nodded. "And we will walk it together." The city below settled into quiet, peaceful nights. Soldiers trained in games instead of battles. Children played freely. Humans and Zainari worked side by side. The future was uncertain, but it was filled with hope. And at the center of it all was a small child, born of two worlds. A living reminder that even in the darkest times, life, love, and understanding could shine brighter than war. Sol looked down at the child once more and whispered, "You will grow to be the bridge between our worlds, and one day everyone will see what you mean to us." Mira held his hand, her eyes soft but determined. "We will teach them. We will show them. And together, we will make a galaxy that is stronger than fear, stronger than hate, stronger than war." The twin suns dipped below the horizon, and a new dawn rose across the Zenari Empire. Sol, Mira, and their child stood together, a human soldier, an alien queen, and a living symbol of peace. The universe was vast and challenges remained. But for the first time in generations, two worlds had hope. And that hope would grow with every sunrise.